Okay, so we are live again with another TROM-Cast, and this time we are going to talk about activism and what activism is. Are we maybe activists? Maybe is activism efficient or not? And we have some documentaries and even a movie to recommend to you, and we are going to discuss about that. And we have someone new today. Cody is from Canada, and he helps with decentralizing our videos. He puts them on YouTube now and on other websites. So thank you, Cody, for participating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so everyone can participate. By the way, let me remind you this. Everyone can participate to these live streams. You can find the links. Can you guys also post it in the chat, one of you? The Jitsi. You can participate with Jitsi. It's an open discussion, basically. Anyone can participate. And if not, you can participate through the chat, and we are going to look at the chat later on if you have any questions. And yeah, I think that's it. We can go straight into the subject, and like I always say, maybe Dima, you want to talk a little bit about the subject today?
Again, me. Yeah, it depends on what we want to discuss. Is it effective or no? And what is activism, or what is volunteering, and why people do it? So activism is kind of efforts to promote some kind of change in society, either it's economical or social or environmental. And that's the guys who wants to make some changes, or at least to promote changes in societies. And what do you guys think, like this type of activists who do like direct actions, which are go and do some kind of campaigns, go to protest on the streets, do some kind of sit-outs and everything, are they effective or not?
Yeah, if anyone wants to jump in.
Yeah, I mean it's a big subject, and some people are effective in maybe reaching their goals, and other people are maybe not so effective. It all depends a little bit on perspective in a way. And you could even say that like politicians are activists. They're fighting for what they believe in, and if they want to be more have a government that's a bit more right wing or left wing or whatever, they might even consider themselves activists or fighting for what they believe in politically, socially, and so on. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think about how effective activists are, or what they even are.
It's interesting to think, is there, I think activists are in some way, what's the difference between activists and volunteers? Because some volunteers, for example, may go towards this side of being activists, because I've seen people who say, okay, I don't agree with maybe pollution, maybe this, maybe that, but they go and try to fix the problem, like take the garbage from the streets or do other kinds of works like that. And I think it's such a, for me, it's an intriguing subject, because on one side I see activism as a failure. On the other side, in today's world, in another way, I see it as a normal reaction to this fucked up society that we live in. So I don't want to bash those groups and say maybe they are not efficient in what they are trying to achieve. But it's kind of hard not to do that, because I think activism is as long as societies have existed, there are always people who are not happy with the social structure, and they go and they protest in all kinds of ways. So yeah, we can talk more about that, but I was curious, like, Cody, what do you think about the subject?
So activism, oh geez. Well, it's shifting too. So I think like on the ground, going like kind of in person is kind of becoming very dangerous almost to do, and it's almost shifting towards, like you saw in like the mid 2000s, early 2010, kind of the DDoS attacks, and we took down like credit card companies, and attacked activate or where Oh, geez, what's the verb?
Mm,
Actively
Anyways,
protest or something. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. But that became like a new way. You didn't have to like leave your home. You didn't have to, risk yourself so much. People did end up actually going to jail for that stuff. I found out. What was basically the equivalent of just refreshing a page, at a 100,000 times a second or whatever. But shifting towards more like that kind of activism, you have barriers instead of just being there on the ground, putting yourself at risk. Because you get a few bad actors in these protests, and the police will react very differently with people who are being violent with them, and then you get people caught in the crossfire, essentially, peaceful protesters kind of just being marginalized by the media. That's like, oh, these few bad actors, look at all the looting and stuff that's happening, discredit everything they're being activists about.
and activism, like you said, it can be harmful, not only for the activists, but for whatever they do. Because if you move into this sphere of hacking, maybe uh, activists are now more like an attacking way, like a way to attack the establishment or something like that more directly than going into the streets. And there are many kinds of activism, but I think my question like generally is like, what do they want? Like, do they want to do they protest against something that they don't agree with, or do they want to change something? Do they have any kind of plan to move forward? Because in my view, from whatever I've seen so far, most activists, they don't really have a plan for how the society should look like. They more have a plan about how the society should not work today. Like they say it's corruption, they say it's bribery, they say police is too brutal, they say laws are not working, but they don't come up with any realistic solution. So did you guys see any kind of more realistic solutions in your views? Because in my view, I haven't seen much in that kind of way.
It also depends how you categorize activists. You know, yeah, there are some activists who working online, yeah, like hackers or anonymous, let's say, very huge organization. It's not even an organization because it's so decentralized. And there are like activists who go on the streets and protest, and there are others who do this through politics or through some kind of businesses or some kind of like ethnical business and so on. They're also activists, and also we are too like some kind of activists too. We do stuff for free, and we do that something because we believe that our actions can change something or can influence something. And in terms of is it effective or not, yeah, it's tough question. The more I research and more I deep into it, I see it's not effective at all. Like if you take, let's say, this standard definition of activist, it's the guys who go on streets and do some direct actions. They're super ineffective, and more of that, they also endanger their lives, and there are so many examples when the activists get killed or get like jailed for long sentences and basically broke all their life, and then at the end nothing is changed. I mean, you can sacrifice yourself, you can sacrifice your life, or everything, if it's worth it, if it's worth the change. But as there are many examples, it's very hard to change something just by protesting. And let's like one of the thing I want to mention, which was huge, and people thought that that's many people came around and they changed something, that was Arab Spring. If you guys know, I'm sure like everyone more or less heard about it. It was in 2010 in Middle East. In many those countries, people just go out on the streets and start to protest because the way of living were so low, and again, dictatorship regimes. So at the end, there was like tens of countries, and at the end, only one country, it's Tunis, changed there was some changes, and the country became like democratical state. Although it's also doubtful what is it really improved the situation there now or not. But in several other countries, like in Syria, Libya, Iraq, their stuff started civil wars, and in Syria it started like international war, and as a result we see this epidemic of immigrants, you know, who going now into Europe, and it's all interconnected, and it's all started because of the activism. And if you will research something about Arab Spring, you will find that in media it's very much promoted like, oh, the social media is so good, the people could connect, the people, because you know they're in their country, their channels and mass media was restricted, people couldn't get, you know, access or bring their information. So like Facebook, Twitter and Telegram was so good into bringing this revolution. But when you see at the outcomes, people now live worse than it was before, you know, like civil wars, millions of people are killed. At some countries they removed dictators, but on those dictators another dictators came in, and it's like a cycle of many years of changing the power. So people are changing, but not the society, not the structure, not the way of living. And yeah, so that's a tough question, you know. Like I've been on many protests, like on the streets, and I like it, you know. It's fun way to do, just to go on in a crowd, and you feel the power, you feel, you know, you're kind of part of this movement, and it's kind of, I don't know, entertainment. I don't want to put this in such wording, but it's kind of, you enjoy it. But if it's really changed, there's very few examples which are really changed something. Like most of the such direct actions, it's mean nothing.
Yeah, I would say in some cases, or maybe the thing that changes the most maybe is the awareness about a certain issue, and if you can like stage or make things a bit entertaining digitally with videos and so on, or as well marching on the streets, you can do all kind of things. It can create awareness. So I think that's maybe the most effective element in which it brings about activism. But a lot of it is also to do with, I think, frustration. People are very frustrated. Like if you see the Occupy Wall Street movement and all kind of other movements, people are just very frustrated, and then don't necessarily go too deep into wanting to understand the entire trade system and the structure which they're living in, but instead just, you know, fight against the first couple things that they see might be the problem, and then hate against that because that's in a way the quickest reaction. And I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes think whether people who are involved with TROM or the Venus Project or these types of organizations are people who are like directly affected by big issues like poverty, war, or so on, or if they are more indirectly affected / like kind of hustling within the system and then trying to really have the time to go into depth, or can afford in a way to be able to go into depth and understand these issues.
I think
a little bigger in terms of taking the entire social context into account.
I think that in general activism is of course an emotional reaction to whatever event, and I think that's no doubt, even for people who may help with TROM. They are like, for me, I can say for sure that I was like pushed by this society to become more vocal about what I'm doing. Because if you're not bothered, not emotionally touched by something in society to make you go there into the streets or make videos or whatever, then I don't think you have the motivation to go there just because. So you have to be, in a way, emotionally entangled with those kinds of activities. And to me, it's like activism, if you say it's effective or not, I think it can have some impacts. The question is the impact the impact that the people want it to have? Because like I gave an example in a book in Romania in like almost like 20 years ago, or almost 30 years ago actually. It was like this big revolution. It's like the hundreds of thousands and millions of people went into the streets and they were against the dictator there. And you can see even videos online and documentaries, like they went to the parliament there and they took charge of the parliament, and they catch the bad dictator and they shoot the dictator and the wife. They achieved exactly what they wanted to. They achieved this, to put this monster away. And now if you look at Romania, for the past 30 years, nothing really. They achieved not much. They are very poor, one of the poorest countries in Europe. That's because they don't have a plan. And it's so funny because I've seen many documentaries about this, and you can see activists, they took over the parliament and they sat there in the biggest room in the parliament. They were gathering around the table and they were searching for poets, they were searching for teachers, they were searching for to create a new government, you know, as if what the fuck has, you know, being a poet to do with how to organize a society. They had absolutely no plans, so they had no idea what to do. And actually they became like mafia basically, because they could do all kinds of illegal stuff. So that's very important, because if you go there, even if you achieve what you want, you push the government away, or the laws or whatever. If you don't have a plan in place, then it's impossible to achieve anything. So that's very important to keep in mind.
That's the case for many countries, not only Romania.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, when with the power of regular people, you know, other players go into the action and go into the parliament and become presidents or tyrants and everything, like to cover the face of revolution. But usually, as you said, mafia and this kind of people get to the power.
Yeah, it's always a repeat of the same series of events. Somehow someone protests, or there's this activist movement that then wants to replace a government or replace something, but they're still operating within the same structure. So it's going to be caused about. No one is taking the bigger picture into account. And like you said, you can, without offering an alternative or having a proper plan in place, you will just fall into the same system, and the same problems will continue.
Yeah, so that's a tough question. But do you guys consider yourself activists?
Who wants to start?
Who wants to go?
I'll go. So I guess I'd consider us all activists in a way. Kind of, we're trying to convey this entirely, or at least nothing like we've ever seen before, a concept of kind of a humanity banding together. It's, you know, it's kind of always sung about, we're talked about in that way, but actually having, you know, technologically a plan laid out with technology in mind, where what we can do with it and what we know, where we know we can go with it, kind of taking into account, you know, all of Earth's resources is, you know, something that we can, you know, kind of finally tackle at a actual accurate global level now with, you know, satellites and, you know, all our other kind of imaging technologies. Wow, I completely lost my train of thought.
No,
So you're activist, we get it.
Yeah.
And you, Sebastian?
Yeah, for sure. I would also agree that we are all activists, and we all in some way or form are trying to influence other people in order for them to as well understand certain concepts like trade-free world, and that we're living in a trade system, and that trade is kind of the root cause of most of today's problems. And I would consider myself an activist who mainly wants to be active by producing videos and documentaries and video content that can maybe change people and make it kind of in an entertaining way. So I would say that's kind of a non-violent way of being active about a certain topic, which then is also political and a bit social and so on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, it's like I always have this problem with putting myself into any category. Even here, when it comes to activism, if someone asks me, you know, are you an activist? Maybe by the things that I'm doing, I am an activist. But I always avoid, just as it's a personal thing, I always avoid to put any labels on me. It's just like, if people ask me what I do, I say I understand some stuff and I want to share it with people. And I think the idea is very important. You can call me whatever you want, because you can also call me a volunteer, for example.
Yeah.
But maybe I feel like even when it comes to activism, it has created a kind of I don't want to say a cult, but like it's a thing. It's a thing to be an activist for many people. I've seen a recent documentary that Dima shared with me, and we posted on VideoNet. And there are some people who are, I mean, they it's almost like a hobby to be an activist, you know. And for me, being an activist is just a result of a frustration or something that you want to do. It's not like, it's like friendship. You cannot force it. It's something that it's a result of something, you know. So in that sense, I will say that, yeah, if you want to consider my actions as activists, as being an activist, then okay. But to me, it's more like, let's promote an idea. It's about an idea. Whatever you have to promote this idea. Maybe I'm more a volunteer than an activist, maybe, because I feel like I'm creating free stuff for other people and I'm helping them, you know. So of course it's a play of words, but in the end it's about the message.
For sure.
It's about what we are trying to achieve. And I was also watching this another, like, it's a movie. It's about, I rarely watched movies, but it's a biographical movie. Again, Dima shared with me. It's about Gandhi, and I've read then about Gandhi, and it's kind of depressing because you see a guy like Gandhi. I think he's like the father of activism. I mean, who achieved more than that guy? Because hundreds of millions of people followed him, and he had this kind of strategies, like he went to starve himself if they were fighting with each other or there was a problem in India, and people interesting, you know, listened to him. Like millions of people were listening to him, and despite that, you know, he didn't achieve pretty much anything if you look at India today. And I think even Gandhi, like Gandhi or whoever, they suffer, or Martin Luther King or whoever, they suffer from the same problem. They don't know what a sane and a workable society can look like. I don't think they have that in mind. They promote like democracy. They say people should be treated equally. I don't think that's going to work. To me, in my mind, is the same idea with trade. Is like, hey, if you don't recognize that is this virus, almost like, that makes people compete with each other and waste resources and so forth. If you don't see this problem here, and you don't talk about this problem, then whatever you put on top of it is like, I don't know, it's like putting perfume on a piece of shit or something, because it doesn't change it change the smell for a period of time, but it doesn't change the essence. So for me, that would be the goal here, to have a really strong message there that is workable and that is realistic, not democracies, not let's feed people. That's how I see it.
I think generally you're speaking about two different kinds of people. There are some people who are fighting towards bringing in change, you know, and they concentrate all their efforts into that. I mean, who knows if whatever Gandhi was even dreaming, if he would achieve independence of India during his lifetime or not. And then when he finally did, yeah, what's next? It shouldn't be actually his concern. And then other type of people is those who are creating these systems, you know, and they know what to do next when they change their core. Okay, now the society's changed, the structure's changed. Now we can build something. And it's I think it's two different types of persons. The one type want to bring the change, and the other type know how to do it, you know. Basically how to make it work, how to make working system out of it. For example, if we take another very popular activist in our time, it's Snowden. I'm sure you guys all heard about him, that he basically was working at the CIA, and he took secret documents which proves that American government spy over millions and millions of people, not only in America, all around the world. And as a result, his life is lousy. He needs to run in Russia. Now he lives in Russia. He's got their asylum. And does it change anything? Do we see less spying, or do we see more of it? I mean, it changed nothing. It brought up this important topic people are aware of. Some maybe of people now put stick tape to to their web camera or so. But that's about it. We've got all documents. We've got documentaries, interviews with him. We've got all these secret files. They're open in internet. If you will type, you will find them, and you can go through them and look for them. But nothing has changed, and the policy of spying in America becomes worse and worse. I mean, better and better for them. So, but what he did, he just put this out. But did he knew how to change it, how not? He just make this information available, and now it's other people who needs to take this and change something if they could, they can.
And why is that? Like, why did he fail? Because in my view, he failed from the same reasons, because he didn't point at the problem, he pointed at some symptoms. Like, look, they are spying on us. But why do you think they are spying on us? People make this society look so complex, while in fact, it's the basic of it is very simple. We are these creatures that we became because of the system, so obsessed with moving stuff and people around, this kind of trade. And of course, America is a big bunch of lots of people, and of course they are going to spy and do all kinds of shit like that, because it's a business. It's not only, it's also business to spy on people, because you get money from the government, you get all kinds of companies working on that, and you want to keep the society like it is, to keep the structure in place. So if Snowden comes and say, look, you have a sick man and he's coughing, and the cough is the problem, of course that whatever you put there as a treatment for the cough doesn't address the symptoms of why people, or why this guy is coughing, So he's talking about the symptoms. Gandhi was talking about the symptoms, poverty and so forth. Martin Luther King was talking about the same kinds of symptoms. Look how black people are treated like that because of the same trade-based society. It's the same. It doesn't matter. Chinese are treated the same in the US, or other or people from Latin America in Europe and so forth. Okay, so I think in my view that's why they are failing, because they are not even addressing the core problem, and they are always addressing the symptom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think they're. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So how can you bring this change? It's we can be like very smart and speak about they just fighting the cause is not the symptom, not the cause of the problem. But what can you do? Yeah. Okay. You see, everything is based on trade, but where do you start the change? And even us, if we consider ourselves activists, all we do is just share information. That's it. Yeah, and it's information. It stays in internet. It's not even in the real world. It's just we're playing the same game. But how can we change the whole situation? You said, yeah, I totally agree with you. Of course, it's not that I'm not agreeing with you. I'm just pointing out that how can you change everything? You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you have to start and address the root problem, which is trade. Because if you don't do that,
Theo, can you give like any example? How can you address the trade system?
You address it by getting it into a conversation. Because take an example, democracy.
Accept information.
For example, democracy.
Like sharing information.
Democracy, for example, it's an idea that I said in a previous TROM-Cast, and it is successful in the sense that it's spread to so many other countries, and you can look across the history. And because people went into the streets or whatever they did, they implemented this kind of democracy. They did that, they achieved it, but they had no idea that democracy is not working. So if you want to achieve something like, say, about trade, talk about trade and talk about trade-free systems or something like that. But you have to start with, I have not seen one single protest in the world about this, and I've never seen that. So you have to start with that.
For me, there are two main things that I maybe can comment on, and that's like, the first thing is it really pisses me off and frustrates me as well that these people like Edward Snowden or Gandhi and so on are cherished by society and by so many people, even though they were just addressing the symptoms and had no real understanding of the trade-based system or anything properly, like from a structural perspective. And when many people are then discussing whether Snowden is a hero and so on, and many people think that we just need more people like Snowden and then suddenly our problems will be solved, but that's not going to cut it, and that's in a way also a dangerous mentality, because it's not going to go to any solutions. But then the second part is that these people who are addressing the symptoms, like Gandhi or Snowden or so on, are definitely creating a bit of awareness. And for people to get to the mindset of understanding the whole system, sometimes they need to understand, in order to get there, like the first book in order to get to the 10th book, because they can't comprehend the whole system if they don't first understand some of the symptoms, and then maybe they will start questioning the entire structure. At least that's the way I see it sometimes. That you sometimes, with some people, need to introduce them, and just to introduce a mindset where they start questioning things. Because most people are just like robots or like zombies, just accepting the system, going to their job or whatever, not even questioning, oh, why do we even have a job? So sometimes, or maybe we should have equal rights, or maybe the government shouldn't be spying on us, because most people, they don't even question those things. They're just going full speed, ahead and submitting to society. So I would say many activists who raise awareness about symptoms can be useful in terms of being the first step towards a mindset that could then understand a trade-free world, and then can bring us a bit further. And but definitely the first part of what I said also needs to maybe be taken into consideration there. And one should not praise those people and be like, oh, that's the way to go, we just need more Snowdens, because that's also not going to cut it.
Okay, where to start? So yeah, okay, I question a lot of things. I really see how the society works, how the monetary system works and everything, but it doesn't free me from waking up in the morning and going and earning the money. Like this knowledge which I've got, and these questions which I have, and understanding, it doesn't solve my problems, like my personal problems. I still have to play this trade game. That's one thing. So today, the biggest problem I see in activism, and a lot of guys are doing, and you too, Sebastian, yeah, you're doing cool videos, is just we're sharing this information. We're sharing information, we're writing books, filming videos, we're speaking, and it's all stays in internet. And today information becomes nothing. It lost its value because there's so much of information going everywhere. Like 100 years ago, it worked perfectly well, during like Russian Revolution and everything. It was super cool when people released the book, and it was really something big, something important. Today, you release a book, it's nothing. Every day, there's 100,000 of books are released on all different topics. So all the the way I see, all we can do right now is just to share this information. But with each year, the value of information is going down, just because we have like abundance of it. And raising awareness is good, but I think it's not effective anymore. That's
I think Sebastian pointed out something it's important, and it's because I agree completely that people don't have to know about this, say, trade system. They have to know, they will know about the spying, they will know about all kinds of problems that are brought into discussions, and they become more and more furious maybe about the system. But for me, it's still frustrating, because if you don't address the problem at all, I don't see maybe how it is going to emerge out of this frustration when they see so much shit, because there are other people who are taking the stage and they say we need a better democracy, we need the basic income, we need this. They are taking up this little space that may make people turn around in a realistic way. They are going, and across the history, you will probably see such people all the time. Their intentions are very good, but they come up with the same kind of solutions, and people rise and they become angry, and then some people come here with a solution and they bump into each other and they go around into this kind of loop. So that's, for me, that's the concerning part, not the people going to protest and not saying about a solution. Okay, if you say about a problem, it's important, even if you don't have a solution. But maybe I'm more frustrated, I see more of a problem with people who say we have a solution, which is not a solution, because it's going to diffuse this kind of the power that activism has. It's going to diffuse into something that is not going to work. And Cody, whenever you want, you can jump in, so we don't talk too much.
Yeah, I'd be nervous beyond belief. You have no idea.
Don't be nervous. The subject is very, very interesting. So maybe because let's take you Cody. Like, why do you do what you do? How did you come into contact with TROM, and what drives you to do what you're doing?
Yeah, actually, what got me into TROM is basically kind of being, falling between the cracks in the system. So I was actually, kind of, since I was like 17, I kind of, my sister kind of mentioned the Zeitgeist thing, or it was Loose Change, and then that led to Zeitgeist, and then Zeitgeist naturally led me to like the Venus Project, and then eventually TROM when it was released. Well, what actually got me to watching TROM was I was working, and I was starting to have like symptoms, and starting to be late for work because of emergency situations, and just there was it was a very strange time for me because I didn't know what was happening, but things were good, but they were bad. Anyways, I ended up being let go from the job, and then a year later kind of getting the medical reasons like, hey, you actually have this, you have celiac disease, and the symptoms you were experiencing that was causing you troubles or whatever. That's basically led to me losing my job, but actually giving me the time to I had TROM. I don't know where I actually found it, but I just decided I was gonna try and start watching this, and it was 13 hours, and I watched the first episode, and then I stayed up the rest of the day, all 13, and just was absolutely just rocked by kind of my worldview. Kind of just you set something up, a key information points in such an amount of time that just caused a synergistic reaction in my brain to be like, whoa, like this is onto something. You've uncovered something here, and it took a little while to kind of awaken something in me. So that would have been like 2012. I wouldn't have been started to kind of really do my thing 2013, and then I've kind of tried to apply kind of that idea and the concepts conveyed in TROM kind of since then. So what it led me to do, and I'd consider myself an activist, was I was what you're kind of doing automated. So kind of these news articles and stuff, I'd kind of personally go in, curate some news, do it for my friends, report the Snowden stuff. It was I don't think I was very effective in my activism because of what I was studying was actually affecting me. So hearing about Snowden, hearing, my phone's always listening to me, I can be tracked on my computer, they can track you so many different ways now. They actually have like browser fingerprints. So it doesn't matter, you're using VPNs and all this, just by the times that you're on and where you're going, like, and what they know everyone else is doing. Is just knowing all this changes inside, and it's called the chilling effect. And it brought me into like depression. Like I've gone through the gamut. I did not get to this point being able to talk with you. I know when I reached out to you, I was very kind of cryptic. I was using, a very special email created just for that. And just like, I was being very careful, and like, I was trying to live under that, the eye is always watching, and, everything is being scooped up, and literally just almost caused me to go insane with like paranoia. And just, and then having to fight against that, knowing that I'm exactly the kind of person they're now targeting and saying, hey, Obama had the disposition matrix, which was basically just trawling information on people and saying like, hey, this guy kind of has like these dispositions, he might be an enemy, kind of thing. And like, putting people into categories, even though I see myself as like I would not do I would not do harm to a human being. I would go above and beyond to, you know, help my fellow man. Like I want, you know, the kumbaya and the, you know, everybody's getting along. You know, competition is wasteful. We need to, you know, let's think of the redundance of, you know, two companies kind of researching the same thing, all the money, all the resources, and they're just wasting the time, and they could just collaborate instead and synergize. And just kind of seeing these failures where it's things should be moving, and it's like I can see the problem. I'm, you know, I'm 30 now. I can see the problems in society. I can see like this has been a problem for a very long time. With the internet, you know, kind of we have global communication, instantaneous communication, that kind of everybody is now on the same page. You know, you're no longer, you know, like Romanian stuff, and like in that area, you know about the entire world and what's happening now. And in that way,
That's always
that's how
interesting. That's always interesting how, you know, there are people who are hurt by this system, like you're saying, you get hurt, and they get involved and they want to change something, and they are so motivated. But I also know there are many people who get hurt. Maybe they cannot stand against this and they just give up, or just they are not motivated to do anything. So this is for me a very big, it's a bit of a mystery, because I know people who understand very well such problems, but they are not motivated to do anything about that. They just say, okay. So it's so interesting to me, like what makes us want to do stuff like you or Sebastian to make videos, or Dima to write books and so forth. I still don't have an answer for this, and I've talked a lot to people about this. So what do you think about, because those people who go and are activists, they too are the ones who are putting their hurt, whatever they hurt them, into action, even if it's a little bit of action, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, quite.
I think from my perspective, it's the extent to which a person is willing to isolate, or the risk they're willing to break themselves from the dominant society that exists. Because most people, they wouldn't do it because they're not rewarded for that. And the further you go down the TROM way of thinking, or however you want to call it, the further you kind of distance yourself from so many people in society. And so it's kind of like how much and how far are you willing to go, and how much are you able to take, how far are you able to distance yourself mentally, and then also economically, and then all the other factors. So most people, they can't afford in a way to think, because of their circumstances, and the overall system just doesn't reward that. It rewards you know, adherence to the system, and rewards for you to be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna get a job. I have no other option, because if I don't get a job, then I won't be able to hang out with my friends, and my friends won't understand me, and it's a tough world if you don't submit in a way, or it's a lonely world in many cases as well.
I found quite simple answer to this question some time ago already. So we are the people who want to have change. We are those who want to bring change. And when the majority of people, they don't want to change the system, although they understand that it's fucked, it's corrupt and everything, but they want to be on top of the system. You know, there's like perfect saying, slaves don't want to be free, slaves wants to have. And I've seen this so many, and it's so many times in like documentaries which are filmed in, let's say, third world countries, where like one particular, I remember now, there was a guy working in a mining minerals for mobile phones in Ghana, I think, and he was constantly in debt. He couldn't feed his family, like really, there was days he has nothing to eat, he doesn't have a home and everything. He's like on the lowest possible position ever. And where on the question, what do you want? Like, what do you want to change, or what do you want to have, or how do you see yourself? He said, I want to have my own business. I want to have people working on me. He didn't say, I want to change the system, I want, you know, equal distribution of the resources so everyone have, you know, equal rights. No, he said, I want other people's working for me. And
I seen actually a study that they did in poor countries, and they were asking people, if you had a wish, like what would you wish? And some people were like, you know, I wish a cow, because they knew that the cow is going to give them milk and whatever. And it may sound strange, but it's because, like, even like Jack Fresco was saying, you go to some Eskimo and ask them whatever they want. Maybe they will not want like a freezer, because they live in that climate that no one wants a freezer, and they don't have this concept. That was the point, you know. So yes, it's about knowledge about the world, but I still find it bizarre that there are many people who know about such things, but they don't get involved.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I wanted to point it out. There's sorry. There are some, of course, limitation of, you know, the place you live and the available information. That's exactly what you said. Like if they want to cow because they don't know that, you know, there are cars or good houses or whatever, so they're limited by their knowledge. But the same stories happen in our countries as well. You know, when the poor people living, I don't know, in the big cities in New York, and you ask them, they want to be rich, they don't want to, you know, to change the system so everyone have equal, you know, opportunities and everything. No, they want to be on top. They know the system is fucked, but I want to be on top. And if I'm on top, then it's fine for me. I don't.
Yeah, for sure. And then usually, at least that's how it is with many of my friends and many of the people who also kind of know or understand the trade system and that it's all messed up. They always say that, oh, once I make it, once I'm okay myself and I'm established myself, then I will help. But but that usually never happens, because there is this quote by a rapper I used to listen to a lot called Immortal Technique. He said that if you think you can change the system from within, it just means if you think you can change this, it is not you that changes the system, but is the system that will eventually change you, because you're embedded in it, and eventually it will get to you. And then you won't be able to help or do the stuff you want to do, because you'll be too far in it, in a way.
Even for TROM, some people contact. Sorry. It's a quick thing here. People contact me, some people for TROM, and they were like, "Do you think that I should, you know, study hard and become rich and then help this project and help to change this world?" And this doesn't work like that. The system will change you for sure. You cannot become rich and keep the same mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, Dima.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good quote, Sebastian.
Yeah.
Like it.
Nice.
I think I forgot what I wanted to point it out.
And also, the richer you get, the less you proportionately give. That's also statistically shown. You know, you see like a homeless guy. You see these videos on YouTube where homeless people are given a pizza, and then they share it like with the homeless guy beside them. And there was this statistics gathered by this one guy. I don't remember now. I saw a TED talk, I think, about it, showing that how in more unequal countries, less people donate as well. And the richer people get, the less they will proportionately, based on their income as well, give. So, yeah. But then there's also one thing I would like to mention, is that you have these activisms, or so-called people who are active, that really frustrates me. And that's like all these celebrities who are active, like, you know, on Instagram or wherever. They're like, oh, you know, we need to save the planet and be more environmentally friendly, and plastic is the problem. And then you have like people like Lady Gaga or all kinds of other random celebrities talking about symptoms that are really not gonna get anywhere. And so many people think that's the way to go, and we just need more celebrities talking about these symptoms like pollution or like feminism and so on. And it's really misleading. So many. And I don't know why it frustrates me so much, because it's just, they have the power in a way to change so many people just by saying, all right, we actually, the problem is trade, and is, you know, this entire corrupt structure that we have in place, but no one is even closely lived there.
Like the Bill Gates effect or something, Bill Gates effect, because he invests a lot of money, and maybe he helps so many people, but he also fucked this society up with whatever businesses he did. and he did a lot of harm, and people forget about such things, you know. Then they think that he has a positive impact. Maybe he has, but he also had a lot of destructive power. That he did.
There was a good point you mentioned. The richer people get, the less they donate, you know, or share. Of course, how would otherwise they become rich, you know? And it's funny how, you know, billionaires are so gratified, you know, in our culture, how they're so, wow, everyone wants to be them. But it's paranoid people. There's people without empathy, and I think actually it should be shameful, you know, to be like so rich, richer than most countries, you know. Then one person could have so much money that like half of the world couldn't afford.
It's disgusting. And then the fact that they call Bill Gates like an activist, someone who is doing great things, you know what I mean? But he is the one who has all this money, or Jeff Bezos, or all those other people maybe not even mentioned on that list. It's just insane that those people are looked up to, and people are like, wow, maybe I could be Bill Gates, or maybe Bill Gates is doing such a great job because he's supporting and all these people in Africa and building homes and this and that. But it's the structural issue, because you could end poverty like this, you could end homelessness like this, if the government, or if people, you know, look at things systemically and actually get involved and build houses. How many houses are there that are empty? Over 100 million apartments are empty worldwide, and there are like 100 million homeless people. It's a ridiculous game, and no one is even pointing that stuff out. Or Bill Gates is going to solve homelessness. Well, we can already solve it if we just restructure a little bit.
But even it's very important to point very quickly that even if you make everything equal, like from today, starting today, it's like starting Monopoly game with equal opportunities. It will transform into the same kind of game. So if you don't change the structure of the game, then you don't change anything.
There was something similar, just pointing out to you, with USSR when they kind of started it after revolution. They, you know, they killed the king and they become like socialist country and kind of started from the start. But actually, as a was like total tyranny, it was really hard for people and more people to get killed during this regime, and not, you know, in the First World War, which was at the time. So yeah,
that's why I'm saying tell people about this disease called trade. Just tell them, because if you don't talk about this, then it's like you avoid completely the problem and you come up with all kinds of solutions. It's like I love to make a parallel all the time with diseases and stuff like that, because it's so true. It's so true. And when they discovered, like I told you before, the germ theory of diseases, like little creatures that are making people sick. I'm sure there were so many activists, or not activists, but people who said, okay, people are sick, let's come up, let's drain the blood, let's put some oil on them, but if you don't talk about the problem, those little creatures that we call germs, then you don't solve anything, you know. And once you start talking about the problem itself, some people will come up with solutions. Those who scream maybe will make other people aware of that. But if you don't come with that, then...
Sorry, let's look at the Zeitgeist movement. Yeah, the first Zeitgeist movie has been like watched by hundreds of millions of people. At least they claim like 300 million people watched the first movie, and the movement became so big. And they also promoted Venus Project, because basically Venus Project got this recognition because of the Zeitgeist. So where is the Zeitgeist today? Today from it's really fading out, and it's just Peter Joseph who left, kind of alone as a person now, like a celebrity, you know.
Yeah, but
I mean, I really respect him and what he does. No, I'm not in any way criticize him. I just pointed out that they bring information to millions of people, but
and my only
information, and what everyone's still going to you know, to work and trade something.
But my criticism here, my comment is that they don't bring the right message. In my view, that's what they are doing. They are talking about so many things, like the market system, capitalism, let's create a resource-based economy, and such things are going to get completely lost. That's why I'm going to push so hard with TROM to change completely the direction and keep it very, very simple, because else you will see people, you are not right that nothing is happening. There are many kinds of things happening. There are so many organizations that are like resource-based economy this, resource-based economy that. They are trying all kinds of stuff. but I think they are failing in the same way that the democracy is failing. So I agree completely with you that you make a big noise, but very little is going to happen with this big noise. But even this little bit that is going to happen is going to be wrongly put in the wrong direction if you don't have a proper message and a very concise and realistic message. To me, that's what is happening.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just don't know how it's possible to do and what we could do besides informing people. Because why I see it's a problem. I see it's a problem only today because information becomes, not valuable anymore. So that's my concern. If we would have this talk, I don't know, 50 years ago, that maybe it would be different when the information still was more valuable than today.
Yeah, but one thing I would just like to say about activism and why I also think TROM is going to continue to, exist in its way and also continue to be active, because I think it's quite an active organization, is because it's decentralized and it's easy to get involved, and everybody's like, anybody can join. Like Cody can join, I can join, a bunch of other people can join, and also bring their input into the table and not have to fill in all kind of different forms, or feel like they have to have a degree, or feel like this or that. So I think that is a key thing, because there are many barriers to activism. Sometimes, like when I first found out about this, and when I was 17 and I watched all these documentaries, there were many barriers. Like I didn't know where to get involved, and I wanted to get involved, very motivated and so on. But when there's so many barriers, sometimes the activism fades, or it goes in another direction, or it's not facilitated that well. That's one positive thing with TROM, or with any, I think, activist organization, that they should imply that, because it will help.
What about you, Cody?
Yeah, I totally agree on that.
Cody, did you try to get involved with Zeitgeist movement or Venus Project?
Yes. So I guess both of them, kind of keeping an eye on them. Peter Joseph, like, really kind of inspired me, but I never really reached out to him. I like him and everything, but I feel the way he can come off. I completely understand like why he talks the way he does, but he can kind of be abrasive. And I don't know, I didn't really feel like I could just get behind him, and like there was something I could do to like really push that forward, aside from being like, hey, watch Zeitgeist. Whereas this, it was like TROM was addressing kind of like, like root causes, kind of like why, like Zeitgeist was kind of on top of, you were like getting to kind of like the base kind of level thinking, kind of trying to trace back as far possible to like, okay, what's the basic concept here that is, to be addressed. And that level of understanding, when I don't know, when I was like going through like these science articles and stuff, and just kind of like learning kind of quantum mechanics, there's a level of understanding that you just get to, and things just start clicking and making sense, because it's like I don't know, maybe like thinking of like forming a gear, and it starts clicking with all the other gears that are working, and they all just start interconnecting. And that was like, I was kind of always telling myself there was going to be a thing, and I'm going to know the thing when the thing comes up, and that's what I'm going to, direct my energy at. I tried going my own. I was kind of like working alongside you, kind of doing like a lot of similar things. So I said, like, I had the same idea for like the search engine. Like I found a lot of our similar ideas falling out of having the same kind of base information. And that now it's just like, I had to kind of also overcome the whole Snowden thing and the chilling effect, and kind of knowing that anything I say now can be twisted or taken out of context or whatever. I had to get over all of that, and then finally kind of reach out to you now to actually, now I'm like, I'm here. I was offering my services back then, but it was almost like a virtue signaling kind of thing, because I didn't really have a way I could really help you. There was no real thing. It was like, hey, if you can if you are doing TROM again, I'm there for you, kind of thing. Whereas now I'm involved in a discussion with you people. I'm putting myself, in a very uncomfortable situation socially.
That's great that you contacted Rom, and that you don't have to work alone on other things. If we have similar kind of goals, we can help each other. That's why I'm obsessed with letting other people getting involved, even with this TROM-Cast. Like, you want to participate, let's let other people participate, and hide the new participator. I forgot your name.
Deso.
Deso. Okay, Deso.
Hello.
Welcome.
How's it going?
What do you
Yeah,
did you listen to
thank
the discussion so far?
No, I just saw the live stream was on YouTube, so I decided to
We talk
catch
about
it
activism.
while activism.
If you have any thoughts on that.
Well, let me first hear what's going on
Yeah,
in the
of course.
conversation.
Of course, we discussed about activism and if it's effective or it's not effective, and we are kind of pessimistic because we say I don't think it's effective because they don't have a plan ahead. But it's also, in my view at least, it's a normal reaction to this fucked up society. So it's not something that is going to go away. So how can we? But let's address this to the other people who talked so far, like, because it's been 1 hour. And how do you think activism can work? If you had like lots of money or lots of resources, what can you do? What can you do?
Okay, how do you define activism as in like doing stuff with, like, I don't know, like massive movements or something individually? Because my views are more like individualistic, so to say. How do you?
Let's hear from the other people. Let's say.
I think it's depends on person how each define activists. For me, I don't see big reason between volunteers and activists. For me, it's the same, but other people's separate them. So, and for like in my view, it's activist is a person who try to make some changes or at least speak about changes.
Yeah.
In any possible way, to paint graffiti on a wall with a message, or to sing a song, or to go on a protest, or kill I don't know, policeman or politician. I don't know, whatever. It's like activist in my view.
Yeah, well, for me, activism is like in this like world, we have like certain individuals, like for example Jacques Fresco, that are big thinkers that have devoted their life to maybe study a certain problem, its causes, and it's like that's something like their purpose in their life, and then it's left for other people to maybe take action on their idea, like for example Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project, or maybe Trom, like you write all of these great things, different aspects from life.
Yeah,
And
we're speaking mainly, is it effective or not? Is it worth doing? And yeah, does it?
My opinion, it's like this is how I think things work with us humans. Like, there are certain people who devote their entire life into playing around with the idea, getting chopping it down to the fundamentals so that people can understand it easier, like making memes, making short videos. And like that's very time consuming, I suppose. And then they're like people, like ambitious people who maybe by luck they come across these ideas, and it's like your job, for example, Tron, uh, how was your name?
Theo.
Theo, exactly. Maybe it's like it's your job to reach out to as many people. Like that's your responsibility to figure out how to reach out to those people. and then it's their responsibility once you like tap into their emotions. It's like an art, I suppose. It's not like some straight science, you know.
So what you're saying is that there are some people with come with ideas or whatever they do to inspire others, and there are other people who get inspired and they do something, and that something is activism. That's what you're reaching at, or it's both. Yeah.
The whole process is like it's like they're different people have like different purpose in this whole thing we call activism. You know, they're the thinkers, then they're the inspired people who then they have a whole other a burden of problems to think about, like like more oriented to taking action, figuring out a practical solution on how to achieve a certain idea, a certain vision. For example, I'll give myself an example. Like back in high school, when I found out about the Venus project, I was like researching it for the first like maybe half a year to a year really intensely, because I was like very inspired, like what this man has to say, and what's his teaching. And then now uh, I can say that I have found something like my life journey to bring this idea, the Venus project, step forward at this, while I'm still alive. Maybe I won't see it while I'm alive, but at least doing something to bring it forward, it's enough to make me fulfilled. And then now it's like my turn in this whole process, like maybe I can like learn stuff like how to maybe raise capital to invest in
You're cutting out. Your internet connection is bad.
this. Oh wait, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, as I was saying, at this stage, it's going to take like financial resources to make any change whatsoever. As Jacques Fresco said it himself. And like I think like everyone, like from the people that were inspired, they will like figure their own unique way on how to bring a certain idea to reality. Like maybe my idea is to like raise financial capital, or some other idea is to maybe continue like spreading the idea, like something like a hotspot. Like maybe you spread the idea, he picks it up, he spreads it around. Like that's another set of people that have a role in this whole process.
So it's about pushing this kind of idea forward, or trying to implement it, whatever the idea is, through all kinds of means. And I agree with that, because it's about the idea, but this is very tricky because it's about the idea. Okay, so some organization or like Jacques Fresco or someone comes with an idea, let's say. I'm not sure if it's his idea or whatever, doesn't matter. People take this idea and want to implement it into the world, like they say resource-based economy or whatever, and they do it through so many different means. Okay, the tricky part here, I think, is that this idea is not, like we talked before, is not realistic, or is not useful, like democracy, like universal basic income, or it's very subject to interpretation, then people who are going to try to implement it, they are going to create, in my view, a complete mess, and they are not going to have lots in common. You will see many kinds of resource-based economies or alternatives to monetary systems if they don't have the proper path forward, the proper idea to push forward.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That's like something part of the process. Yeah, go on.
No, I would just tend to agree with you, Theo, and I would also say that that's what I really like about TROM, because the problem is properly defined, and if you can't really understand the problem at hand, which for me has always been like, I was always inquiring and always trying to learn more about what the problem actually is, and then breaking it down into that one word, trade, and understanding that the potential of our species to have a trade-free world could be something, and that, I don't know, it makes it much easier to communicate with other people, because I always had difficulty sometimes describing a resource-based economy because there are many elements to it. And this logo, trade free, is so simplistically, so it just goes down to the very core elements. I think that could help in terms of activism for this type of way of thinking, in a way, because it's much more direct and simple.
I love hearing that, because we are going to focus on this so much, and we are going to create like database of trade-free goods and services, and we are going to push this trade-free idea. So that's why I don't care to be TROM, I care for this idea. And if you create trade-free goods and services, you also promote an idea like, hey, trade is creating lots of problems, so I don't care if you implement a resource-based economy or whatever economies you want. If you try to push this aside, for me, that's the goal here. And because the message is so simple and so compact, you can put it into a pan and boil it, and you won't get much further down. Like, it's quite compressed. It's like in my view, it's like an atom. Like, you can split it into other parts, but it's still quite the building block. You know, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I totally agree on that too. And what Sebastian said, it was tricky for me also. For the new people who doesn't know anything about it, it's totally new topic for them. Explain what is, resource-based economy and what is Venus Project and so on. It took like, I cannot say it, I don't know, in a few minutes, because they won't listen more than 2 minutes, of my monologue about this, because you have to start from start and where's the problem and everything. And then I try to explain like now in more simplistic way, like you two, you do like start with trade, and it's and basically I can get to the main idea in a few sentences, and then we can discuss further. And there also are, as I see, they're more and motivated to continue a conversation because they start to get the idea or so, or I don't know why it's more maybe easier for them to listen than few times when I was trying to describe some person before what is Venus Project, what's resource-based economy. I think in most cases people just okay, and they kind of lost interest and switch topic or just ignore me.
That's the thing I'm trying to figure out. Like, why are there some people who they like catch up with the idea right off the bat, and then they're like most of the people, I would say that they're like very hard-headed, and it's like they just don't want to like even give the opportunity to explain just a little bit,
That's a complex question and got many answers. It could be, the person's background or the person's information, what information he have, what interests he have, like,
and also how you put it. It's also how you put it, because I cannot talk to my father, for example, and say, trade is the problem. I'm going to explain about corruption. I'm going to explain about money, and he gets that with money. Money it's going to corrupt everything from science to politics, and then it's a little step from there, and you say like, okay, in China they have these social credits kind of thing. They want to push money away, and they give you social credits to get a better car or whatever, and this is the trade that they do. Money is the same, and you connect them, and you make him realize that, money is kind of a trade. That's what you mean by trade. Okay, so it's kind of money, but other kinds of. So you have to push it to a tunnel that they understand. So I think that's also important, because they will get it if you know how to reach them.
But actually, if you think about it, all activism or volunteering is also trade-free, like the essence of this idea, because you do something not waiting something in return, I mean, you can wait, but it's not the main goal. You do something for free for the main idea or for whatever reasons you might have, but you don't expect something in return. And that's where this trade idea goes really kind of deeper into you, if you start to understand that not only money the problem, but also like your regular day-to-day communication with people, when you can help someone and doesn't expect something in return. And that's but when you do something, you help your friend or you help someone and you're expecting something in return, that's the trade. That's our implemented way of thinking, the way everything works.
And here's one little thing here. because people look how you can provide some answers to them, because people say, you talk about this trade-free stuff, so what, what do you do? And I can say, you know what, I'm doing lots of trade-free stuff. I'm doing like an operating system, I'm doing like a search engine, books, I'm doing videos, I'm doing trade-free stuff, and we do something. Anyone can do this. Yes, it's at a small scale, but at least you provide them with an answer, because usually people are like, yeah, so what are you doing? You live without money, you live without, if you complain about money, do you live in a resource-based economy or what? And here you can provide an answer for them. And I saw that it's very effective, because they don't expect that. They say, okay, so this guy is doing stuff, not only talking about in theory. We do lots of trade-free stuff.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's really good that there are no perks for Patreon, and that it's kept 100% trade free. And I think Patreon is a great tool right now for many creators, kind of, in order to kind of within the system have a bit of financial support to be able to keep going and kind of maintain a bit of a trade-free mindset and trade-free way of doing things, because you're doing it regardless. You're going to keep doing it anyway. And if they want to keep it alive, they can support and so on. But it's not the other way around. It's not the money. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it regardless, and then the support is coming. So it's that's a much
when
healthier,
people accuse, like in the Venus project, they say, okay, Venus project, you talk about a world without money, but it costs $24.99 to buy your book. So it's a way for people to attack you. I understand why Venus project does this. But for TROM, for example, that's why I'm very stubborn about this. No one can say, a girl, someone like a few months ago commented like, oh, you post this about TROM, but you sell books or videos. Or I was like, no, everything is completely trade-free. You can access everything that we do. You can edit it, you can share it, you can whatever you do. And she was like, I'm sorry. She apologized. I'm sorry. I know I'll look into this. So that's very important here.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Jacques Fresco's like idea is to like make this the whole economy like fully machinery automated, so that we can like remove the human factor from the equation, so that like there's no like the whole concept of like doing something for someone is like removed,
For sure.
Wasn't that like his
for sure
like solution?
Yeah,
I would say Jacques was on the same page as we are in a way, and he was also talking a lot. I listened to a lot of his classic lectures from the 70s, and he was also talking about trade and how that is a very obsolete way of thinking, and of course through automation and designing a future that's abundant and so on, you can overcome those things. And he was also talking about how in relationships and in many other things, this trade element comes about, and you can this trade thing is like, all right, I'll do this for you, but then you'll do this for me, and that this element of trade kind of to me is just like enhanced my understanding of Jacques' work and the work of Peter and everyone who's also been emphasizing this message. But I would say he was on exactly the same page. It was just maybe different words used and a bit of semantics here and there, and yeah.
Yeah, I think my only problem with with TVP, in my view, like a little issue here is that they focus maybe they kind of, from my perspective, they kind of lost this focus on the problem, and they focus so much on resource-based economy, futuristic cities, and so forth. Because when I listened to Jacques Fresco, that's what I heard from him. That's what I've heard. He was talking a lot about money, but he always mentioned that, well, it's not only about money, it's about barter and trade and stuff like that. He didn't compress it like we try to do here with TROM, but he talked about the same kind of stuff. So you should see like Future by Design. I think that's the best documentary about Jacques Fresco and Venus project in my view.
No, because you guys are saying like to like do stuff voluntarily, and I can like understand if it's like on a small scale stuff. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see how like you can get like 7.5 billion people to do everything voluntarily, perfectly synchronized, like every sector of the economy. and that's I think like that's what I understood from Jacques teachings, is that the solution, like the overall solution, like behind everything he uh talks, is to like make everything like automated, so that there's not like human in the equation, you know, like make the robots do everything, so that we don't have nothing to trade for, you know, like
Hmm.
everything is produced
That's
forever.
the ideal solution.
Yeah.
But I think decentralization it works great. The way the Trump project is running, it's kind of decentralized. Everyone can join and do something, and like the biggest examples is Wikipedia, you know, or organizations Doctors Without Borders. It's all voluntary based. People just do stuff there, and it's working. And Wikipedia is #1 source today in internet. You know, if you want to check something and find out, and it's totally run by volunteers.
For sure. 100%. And I don't know if you guys have read Peter Joseph's book, Structuralism and the New Human Rights Movement. But it's a great book, and in there he lists 5 things that can like bring us towards. He doesn't mention trade free, but towards a future that's abundant and post scarcity and so on. And I would say these concepts strongly link as well to a trade free world, and those 5 things are access, automation, localization, decentralization, and like the Internet of Things. And in a way, I can imagine a trade-free world. Many people are kind of already living in a trade-free world if they're living off the grid and they're getting their energy, so through solar panels, and they're growing their own food, and they're living locally and decentralized and so on. They're completely self-sufficient in a way. So there are many ways in a way of kind of being able to live a trade-free way in this world as well, and
Actually,
ways of attaining
last
it.
part of the last part of the book,
Uh,
the big book that we have, The Origin of Most Problems, actually goes exactly into that kind of direction and gives some, like we have six kinds of points that if you respect them, the more that you respect them, the more a project or a good or a service will become trade free. So it's a practical way to look at this. So yeah, I was surprised when I was hearing the book, because I was hearing it recently, the audiobook, and I was like, oh, okay, so we kind of try to do the same kind of things with the last book.
Sep, on the topic of like self-sufficiency, actually what you just described is like what my family is like. Like we have a somewhat average size pig farm where our main income comes from, you know, and we have over there like solar panels. We make our own electricity. We also have a water pump. We also have our own water, you know, like we're self-sufficient.
Yeah.
But still I'm like observing the same behavior even in my dad, like as long as there's like a human involved in producing something, that human will want to be compensated for it, you know.
Yeah.
So even if it's between your closest people, it's all value, you know. Everything in the world is all value, and money is just something to represent it. So maybe like we're not trading between my family members with money, but maybe if I want something, they will expect it like in a very complex way to get it repaid, maybe in like doing a chore, maybe some labor, you know. That's what I'm trying to say, like when Jacques was saying to automate everything so you can
For sure. For sure.
remove the
For
human
sure.
factor, you know.
For sure. And any like drudgery, any work that you don't want to do needs to be automated, or some system needs to be found. And that's the thing with trade free. I feel like if people do things voluntarily, like it's not for, if you want to do it, like if you want to produce videos, either way, if you're getting paid or not, or if you want to sing, either way, then that's a healthy way of doing it. But if you're in a production line and you don't want to be there, then it's kind of forced. And whenever there's a force, which is directly linked with trade as well, with doing something you don't want to do it, but someone wants you to do it, so you're doing it for them or you're doing it for the community, then that is something that of course needs to be automated, um, or another system needs to be found, or
Of course, the goal is to automate as much as possible. We should never rely on volunteers. We should we should try to push automation as far as possible. What we are talking here is like trying to push this kind of movement or idea from this world. And if I, in a way, sacrifice myself, let's say, and I say I'm doing trade-free stuff, I'm doing trade-free educational stuff, trade-free this, trade-free that, I know that with the things that I'm doing, I'm not going to influence many people, but I'm promoting an idea here. I think that's the best here. It's like with open source. There are so many open source programs, but the most important factor is the open source idea, that they are pushed, it is pushed through so many kind of projects, That's how I see it.
So the way you see activism for yourself is just push this idea of trade, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because my points are that it's very condensed. It's very condensed and you can get involved doing something. It's not like just saying, okay, a resource-based economy and let's wait for it. Let's wait for whoever wants to implement like a big city that I think is quite unreasonable because you need billions and billions of dollars. Here you can do something about this and you promote this idea. And forget about TROM, forget about other organizations. The idea matters here. No one cares that it's TROM who's promoting this trade-free stuff. It's about you and you. And I was talking to Aaron, who is helping TROM project. He came here. We talked a lot about this. Like I said to you, we want to organize maybe every year a sort of like a lecture, a talk, or gathering everywhere. Whoever wants to participate, and to promote trade-free goods and services and promote this idea with trade-free. And if you say, okay, Venus Project, it's about this, then focus on the problem. If you are Venus Project, this is what bothers me a bit, to be honest with you. If you are Venus Project and you say, we talk about a resource-based economy and automation, I completely agree with you. I made a documentary that is hours and hours with footage from the Venus Project. But I want you to focus on the problem, because that's what's going to unite us. Because Venus Project is going to say, this is what Venus Project should have said, in my view. In order to get rid of this disease trade, or what they call it as a monetary system, but they should move to trade. We have a resource-based economy. We have this kind of automation, these models, how the world without trade could be. And if they phrase it in this way, I can come along and say, I agree with these guys. We at TROM make trade-free books, trade-free documentaries. We also move towards this direction. Others can come along even with open source and they say we make software and so forth. And this will unite us, as many organizations will unite us, and we have one single goal here. That's why it's my focus on this, because I agree with the Venus Project or with the Zeitgeist movement.
Well, yeah, we all have one goal to evolve humanity to a higher level,
But I think that's I don't agree with that goal, because it's too transparent in my view. It's too okay. What does it mean? Christians will say that.
Vague.
Yes, too vague. Christians will say that we have an idea about that. But when it comes to trade free, it's very little that you can say. It's very little. Yeah. That's how I see it.
So I think we're going back to
you have a point.
To this division. I proposed that there are two different kinds of activists: one who bring the change, and other who can work with it. So as you propose, to just promote this idea of that trade is sources of most of the problems, and to create also some trade-free products and services. And when the Venus Project is kind of working on the solution, which will be after, if we will transition to this world trade-free. They already got the sketches for the designs for the cities and all the systems and everything. So that's exactly the point that I made earlier, that it's like different types of activism, if we call it activism.
Yeah. Maybe I can shift the topic a bit and ask you guys a question. Do you guys sometimes feel like it is more, are you involved in actual physical interaction with other people in your way? And do you feel like that type of activism, like getting involved with a community or helping out the homeless, and that is more rewarding than doing stuff online and producing a video online, because you're actually getting to interact with people?
rewarding for you or for the people you are helping?
Both.
It's a tough question. I mean, it's kind of both. It's cool to do something today offline. You know, it becomes like a luxury
Yeah.
to do something offline, because all our life and most of the activism we are doing here, it's all online based.
Yeah.
I found it really very emotional and very much more powerful and touching when you actually can help someone or somebody else can help you. Like short story, like about 10 years ago, I was living in total poverty. I was basically living in squats in London, so I didn't have any money at all. I couldn't, didn't have money to eat, And there, like in London, there are Krishnas, like Hare Krishna, it's like Indian religion, and they have this action. They go on the streets every day and just give food for free for people. It's vegetarian food, and they every day just go out and give food for free. And yeah, I think they collect this food from the shops which are out of date. Like today, at night, then they cook, and in the morning or during daytime they give food for free. So and I was really really grateful for them, and they helped me a lot. And then one day I've seen some comments or so about Krishna, and people saying, yeah, okay, they're coming out and feeding those people, but it doesn't change the situation. It doesn't do anything. And I like strongly disagree, because at that point, at that time, they really helped me, and those personal actions, they really mean something, and they touch people much more deeper and made deeper impact.
I can say that
even on a small level, we're speaking about changing the world, but even on a small level, what we can do to help one person, it's much more powerful, than just to say, okay, it's worthless, it's not going to change the world anyway. So.
But you turn out to be something like an exception from the rule, because like in my city specifically, like I know like the homeless people, like everyone's seen them in my hometown, and like I've seen like people giving them money, but in the following days, like maybe after some time, like months, like you still see them at the same like spot in life, like they didn't improve for the better, and that's how I interpret the saying, like, yeah, you're helping the homeless, but you're not like fixing the issue here. Like I'm not saying there's anything bad with like helping the homeless, like that's a very noble thing in my opinion, but I think everyone that is involved like in that should keep in mind how to like take action towards a bigger solution, in my opinion.
Because it's a lot to do with like patchwork, like you're putting plasters on the problem, but it's gonna keep bleeding. But for me personally, I also find that sometimes touching base with like the real world, like with homeless people and helping out homeless people, also it does have an effect, like a direct effect, maybe not a big system effect, but you can draw inspiration from that as well, and understanding from that as well, that you can then use as well in talking about and trying to promote the big ideas and the trade-free type ideas.
I think if you use such acts, also as a vessel to push a bigger idea, I think that's the ideal here. That's the best here. Because if you only say let's help some homeless people, but you don't even talk about the bigger problem here, then you're going to spin the same wheel on ice. But even because you asked I think you asked how do we feel about impact like online versus offline. That was your question.
For me,
in a sense, I don't care, because I care about people understanding what I'm trying to explain. If it has an impact, that's great. And I've received so many emails over the years. Some are like, wow, you saved my life, they say, and I cannot quantify that. I don't understand exactly what they mean, but they say you pulled me from my depression. So online or offline, it depends. You can have even online so much impact. The problem that I see with offline is because discussions are always like ping pong. If you want to talk to someone, you have to. I like to think a lot more, so I like to write more stuff than talk to people about problems or about solutions. And also offline, you will reach far less people than you reach online. But of course, it has an impact as well. Even offline, it has an impact. But to me, I'm more focused on the online protocol.
What about you, Cody?
Well, I think the online, it's difficult to kind of measure your impact, because I mean, you kind of think of like what Theo or like even you have kind of released. Yeah, you can get like a view count and stuff, but that doesn't really tell you a lot. It doesn't tell you you know, how you changed, you know, another person, maybe their point of view, maybe they become, you know, like I guess like what inspired Theo, you know who set him to inspire us, you know, who set off the initial chain reaction there. Yeah,
I measure the success here for TROM. Seeing people like you guys getting involved and being more vocal about such things, to me that is not, because it's true. If you look at the video, say you have 1,000 views or 1,000,000, but people just watch that video and don't even get involved or anything, then I don't think you can measure that. I don't think you can say that you reached millions of people. Like with Zeitgeist, Dima, you said Zeitgeist reached millions of people. It depends what reach means. On YouTube is like a view. Who knows what a view is, you know?
For sure.
We gotta keep in mind that when someone like maybe like watches a video of Trom or something, you know, maybe in the beginning he will just watch it and like whatever, you know, like maybe in the following days, years, you know, he won't be like changed or something. But never underestimate the power of planting the seed in the head, you know, because little or more he will like have it in mind once he's seen it. Like you can't unseen something you've seen, you know.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, but as we start discussion, I'm always so skeptical. Yeah, like those seeds, they do nothing really. I mean, we know the problems, we know exactly where the problems, but we cannot do much about it, and that's was like the main topic for discussion today. I don't know if anyone wants to add something or not, and we should mention some news and documentary then.
If anyone wants to say anything, if not, I have some documentaries that I want to recommend and some stuff.
I think I'm good.
Okay. So, you know, talking about trade-free goods and services and products, for those who don't know, we make a curated news system. We take lots of sources and we curate news, and it's a trade-free news system. And we also have a website, videoneat.com, with lots of documentaries. Again, it's trade-free. You don't have to trade anything to us, your data or your attention or anything like that. So we have a documentary that I put today on Videoneat. It's called Everyday Rebellion. You can, for whoever watches it, you can see it on the screen now. And it's recommended by Dima, and it was exactly about activism around the world. Like, do they have an impact? What do they do? And you know, as I remember last night, I think it ended up in a more positive way. But you know, the documentary is from 2013, and we can look now to see what's the impact. But still, I like the fact that there are people who are motivated. I think what they lack is to plant some proper ideas inside their heads, if possible. So
It's great documentary just to watch, and you know, to see different kinds of activists, what they do, what struggle they get through, you know, what kind of actions and what they thought. And the good point about this documentary is kind of natural. It doesn't penetrate any, you know, point of view, so you just look at it and make your own decisions. That's quite rare.
It was a good documentary. And Dima also recommended this movie Gandhi. You can see it on video on it as well. It's about.
Oh, yeah,
it's
you
about,
had it?